Hi, I'm Joash from E27. Together today we are with William Henley from Sterling Capital. And we're going to talk a bit about the Indonesian market in terms of how do you do businesses, the best business practices in Indonesia. So, William, you were named Fortune Magazine's top 40 executive under 40. Tell us more about this.
I suppose it's all because of the fact that I've been dabbling in the investment banking industry for almost the last 20 years now, and a couple of some of the last projects which I undertook prior to leaving the industry are actually very prominent and high-profile projects, and because of the intense exposure which I garnered during the execution of the project, sort of propelled me into the limelight, which sort of resulted in me being named the top 40 executive under 40. I think that's the brief history of that kind of sort of positioning.
Okay, interesting. So we are here today to talk a bit more about, or basically help our audience find out more about what is it like to do business in Indonesia. So the first thing is to maybe explore is like if you're a company, a foreign company interested to enter the Indonesian market, how do you do that? What are the procedures? What are the regulations that you're looking at?
If we are limiting our discussion with regards within the so-called technology startup sector, I suppose you would want to position yourself as either a venture capital investor or starting a new company in Indonesia to either to cater for the Indonesian market or using Indonesia as a launchpad for your service across the region. Now, some of the things that you have to take into account are actually the size of the investment as well as the regulatory framework about the investment. There is an investment coordinating board in Indonesia which sort of assists, or I do not want to use the word regulate, but this is actually like the gateway to go to when you are thinking about investing in Indonesia, whether it's the real sector, resources sector, service sector, or even within the technology startup sector. The other thing that you have to be aware of is the existence of the so-called negative list, in which certain industries are actually limited by, to foreign investors. Sometimes it's 100% limited, sometimes it's limited to a certain percentage, but the negative list comprises of a list of sector and industries with regards to the percentage where foreign investors can actually invest in. One factor that is very relevant with regards to what you've just mentioned is when you want to expand your operation into Indonesia, you have to be aware of the fact that Indonesia is a vast archipelago comprising 17,000 islands. You really need to be aware of the fact that trying to gain traction within Indonesia is not actually as easy as it sounds, because a lot of people come into Indonesia, go into Indonesia thinking that it's a country of 250 million people. If I can actually get traction with 2% of the population, that's a market bigger than Singapore population already. However, you have to realize that getting traction and access to the 2% of the population in Indonesia requires a lot of work because of the geographical challenges. So there exists quite a fair bit of infrastructural challenges as well as logistical challenges, and because it's a vast expanse of geography, these two issues, the logistic and the infrastructure challenge, can make or break whatever you're trying to do in Indonesia. I suppose one of the most important thing to look into would be with regards to the monetization of whatever you're trying to do in Indonesia. And when it comes to monetization, you also have to be well aware of the fact whether you're going to be marketing virtual goods or physical goods. The approach with regards to this type of goods can be very different in Indonesia, because we're talking about the infrastructure. When you're trying to sell virtual goods to the gamers, it's very different from when you're trying to sell a 42-inch LCD TV by way of the internet. I think the way Groupon has tackled this issue is by setting up several branches within the markets with which they think is worth serving.
Okay.
That's the approach that is being taken by Living Social as well. The thing is, if you try to have physical presence across the market, which market are you trying to serve first? And for you to be able to set up a lot of branches across Indonesia, for sure it's going to require a lot of money. What I'm trying to put across is the fact that despite the fact that Indonesia is a very lucrative market, nobody can deny that, even I don't deny that. The thing is, you really have to look at your perspective, whether you look at it as a short-term play or a long-term play. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is, if you expect a quick gain for anything for whatever you're trying to do in Indonesia, that could be very, very futile proposition.
Okay.
Because I think the infrastructural and logistic challenge put a lot of hurdles in terms of someone trying to make a quick gain out of Indonesian's presence. Since a large chunk of the challenges is in the form of infrastructural challenges,
Yeah.
The best way to overcome or to achieve whatever we're planning for the venture is when these infrastructure challenges are overcome. So, and since we are talking about infrastructure, most of the time it's actually being overseen or being under the auspices of government, of the government.
Okay.
So I'm not sure whether there's a immediate solution to the so-called infrastructure challenges at the moment. A lot of the Indonesian startups are actually cloning the business concepts outright to be implemented in Indonesia. When you're doing that kind of business ventures, it is very unlikely that this kind of offerings can be parlayed into a regional play or a global play. And to be frank, I haven't actually seen that many Indonesian innovations that warrants that kind of presence in the regional market or global market, except for the maybe gaming sector. We have actually seen quite a number of Indonesian game workshops going regional or going international, but not so much by way of them publishing their games, but more in a sense that they are actually the development company accepting jobs from the global publishers. Some of these houses, these outsourcing houses, are actually building their portfolio as a stepping stone before they actually publish their own titles. And this strategy has worked somewhat well for certain houses, but has not actually worked that well for the others. I suppose with this kind of approach, a couple of the software, no, I shouldn't say software, a gaming developer in cities like Bandung has been able to get pretty good traction. And they are the outfit who are actually seriously looking at publishing their own titles as being the next milestone of the development of the business plan. I suppose what we have seen in Indonesia over the last few months is that we have actually observed quite a number of so-called Japanese interests trying to build that portfolio from Indonesia. And because of the nature of these Japanese interests are mainly strongly involved in the so-called gaming sector, that could provide the sort of stepping stone required for the Indonesian developer to reach the region or the global market. One of the most futile proposition would be for someone to actually copy whatever that has worked well in the US and do a local version of that. Indonesia is a market where there's no censorship, there's no, well, I'm not sure there's a censorship, but there's no hurdles in terms of barrier of entry in coming into the market. And if you try to make the local version of Facebook or the local version of Twitter, of course you cannot compete with the real version. So I think for Indonesian startups to be able to do well, they have to think about a service or product or platform that has got a value proposition to be implemented outside of Indonesia. So maybe something that is corporate related as opposed to the consumer related, because when you're talking about consumer related services or products, chances are they are being well served by the so-called US
The Western products.
names already.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, William from Indonesia Capital, and E27. I'm Joash from E27 together with the guys from Tech65. We're signing off.